Alright, so in this video we're going to go over some tips on how to set a deer eye. This is a Mackenzie form, one of their new ones. It has the positive eye set in it. One of the first things that I want to do is I want to make sure my form is level. So I'm going to take my little level and come right across the top of these eye orbits. And that's the ball is right in the center. You also want to make sure that you're level on the back of the deer. So I'm going to run this right on the back and we are good there as well. So the form has been leveled. If this was one that I was actually mounting now, I would come through and I would rough up this whole area around the eye orbit. And I'd either use one of these little stout roughers and or sandpaper. Some real coarse sandpaper is good around the eye. You don't leave a lot of big grooves. It makes everything nice and smooth. The tear duct, you can use a Dremel tool for this, or you can use any kind of a modeling tool. I like to come in at an angle that follows the form up and in at an angle. You don't want to come straight in because your tear duct's going to pull right out. So you want to come up at an angle right like this, just follow the form in. And I usually extend it a little bit down farther than what they give you here. That gives me a little bit more room to tuck my tear duct skin into. You can make this a little deeper as well if you want. That's pretty much all that there is to that. And you can either use clay or epoxy in there, epoxy sculpt, when that time comes. What I want to do now is I want to make sure that my eye is going to be level with the ground. So to do that, I'm going to take my level and I'm going to find the center of the eye. And once that drop of water hits the center, I'm going to make 2 marks. And that's what I'm going to use to line the iris of the eye, so I know that it's level with the ground. That always has to be level with the ground on a deer. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using these Joe Meter liquid lens technology eyes. These work really good. Pretty much any deer eye will work. These are just some that I had in the shop to try out. Normally what I'll do is I'll take a small amount of clay and I will put it behind the eye. This is going to give me something to seat the eye into in this eye orbit area. One other thing too, you should take some sandpaper and rough this area up so your eye doesn't accidentally fall out. Now the iris of the eye, we want to make sure that that's level with this mark here. That's why we put those marks in. That's going to give us a guide so we can see what we're doing. I'm just going to push that in place. Like I said, these are positive set eye sockets, so everything's kind of lined up for you already. Now the only way I'm going to be able to tell if this eye is lined up correctly is if I take a bright light and shine it so I can see that iris. I'm just going to put the light on here on my phone. And I'm going to angle it slightly. So I want to make sure that it's level with this marker here. Which it is. So that eye is now level. Now we're going to move into putting some clay around the eye. Because these are positive set eye sockets, they already have a lot of the ridge built into them. So you don't need a ton of clay. Now if you're not using a Mackenzie form, your eye might be set up a little differently. Normally what I'll do is I will roll out some clay. You can use white clay or this regular natural clay is fine. Some people like to use epoxy as well. And I'll roll it out to about a thickness of a pencil. Kind of measure this up here. And then I'll pinch it off. And you can either put it on in a roll like this and roll it around, or you can start to kind of smush it together and make it flat. So I'm going to start right here at the front corner of the eye, drop down, and I'm not coming down on the eye as much as an antelope was with my clay. A lot of times antelope, they're almost touching that back iris. We're going to come slightly up higher than that. Pinch it off here. And I'm just going to roll this clay up to meet that eye socket. You don't need a lot of clay with this style. Smooth that on the back. We'll come and adjust that a little bit more in a second. I want to repeat that process on the lower part of the eye. I'm not going to smush this together. I'm going to keep it just how it is. Start at the corner. A little bit more, a little bit thicker amount of clay there. Now when you put this clay on, you don't want to run it right like this. You want to bring it down like this, about to the center of the eye, and then you want to hook it back up, right like that, because they naturally drop down towards the back of the eye. That's the thing that a lot of people commonly mess up. They put the droop up here when the droop's supposed to be more towards the back of the eye itself. Blend this in. One thing that's important is you want to make sure you have a lot of really good reference as you're setting your eyes. Be constantly looking at those. This is really kind of what I call my production eye set. There's some other things that you can be doing too, but this is a really quick and easy way to do them. You can get as fancy as you want to with lines, etc. at this point, or you can add those in after you get the skin around the eye. I'm going to take a step back and take a look at that. It's looking pretty good. I am going to put a little bit more clay up on top. Again, I'm going to roll that out and then smush it together. I don't want to put too much up here. This is going to kind of help recreate that line that's there. Where the eyelashes are. Roll that up in. Smooth that down. In this case, I will put a little bit of clay in the tear duct. You can use epoxy sculpt for that as well. Now, if you look at the eye, we have a pretty good buildup of clay right in the front corner, as well as right behind the eye. The deer should always be able to see behind it. So you want to make sure you don't have too big of a buildup of clay there. So I'm going to push that back onto the form a little bit, smooth it out of the way. At this point, at about this stage, I like to put a little bit of water on the eye. You can use a spritz bottle for that, or a spray bottle, or you can use a brush. Start to form this eye around. By getting it wet, I am able to smooth everything in, start to get some really good flow on the eye. Come here where these centers connect, make a little trough there so I can tuck my skin into to lead right into that tear duct. Kind of bring this top eyelash. You want everything to be free flowing. So what I'm doing with my brush right now is I'm making this front corner not as sharp, but smooth right into that whole tear duct area. Bring this down a little bit more. I brought the whole thing of clay down slightly. I felt it was up a little bit too high in the air. Open up this front corner. Expand this here a little bit. Open this up a little bit more in the back because you want to have that white showing behind the eye. Take my tool and make that eyelash. Bring that right down and in there. clean that eye off. That's about where I'll put it at this stage. Once I put my skin on it, I can kind of manipulate things around with how everything looks. But this is kind of what I call my standard production eye set. Some of that clay off there, I'll let you see it from the front as well. Now, depending on how much white you want showing on the front of your eye, that can be adjusted with the clay here. So if you wanted to have a lot of white showing, like it's looking behind it, we could push more of this clay in to get that expression that we're looking for. This is kind of a standard passive semi-sneak pose.